what's diluting our imagination to think that we can mow and control everything? And what are we missing out from that dilution?
The reason I love contemplative studies is because it dampens my own arrogance, my own desire to control. I think it's endemic. We have a fear of the unknown. And so if we control things, if we control nature, if we control our lives, our pathway, and our careers, we're less afraid of this journey that we don't know where it began and we don't know where it's going to end. And the fear of that's always subliminal, always there, gives us this impetus to control whatever we can.
Talk about contemplative prayer, isn't it supposed to be quiet?
No, it's not supposed to be quiet. When I wrote the book Joy Unspeakable, Contemplative Practices of the Black Church, my friend said, there's no such thing. So how are you going to get a book out of that? And I had seen it, so I knew that it existed. Contemplative prayers are usually seen in a setting of silence, monasticism, being set apart, when in fact for people of color, and I don't know whether it is because of psychological trauma, usually it is the group that is receiving the contemplative moment. There's a song in the Black church called "Oh Jesus," and those are the only words of the song. And the song can go on for 20 minutes. And the people just moan, "Oh Jesus, oh, oh Jesus, oh, oh," and it goes on. And the musicians get more complex and the moans and people weep. There is no question in my mind that that is entry into sacred places for a contemplative moment. It's one that arises in the drum beat. There's a scholar named Olu Taiwo.
Does it arise in the John Deere?
And what he says is there is a return beat. There's a space between each moment. As you move your hand up and down as you're hitting a drum, there's this breath, this moment. There's a space between our breaths. There's this ineffable moment, this moment that can't be described, that is a contemplative moment. So we're having them all the time. We're having contemplative moments with the television on. We're having it with the lawnmowers going. It is that breath that we won't voluntarily take that is seeded into our very being, so that whether you ever contemplate anything, you're having it as you breathe.
What's dismembered us from that connection to that breath?
Pain. I think that being quiet for quiet contemplative prayer is difficult if you have been traumatized. Because the way you keep pain enclosed and encased within you is by not stopping, going from morning till night, falling out in your bed, getting up and doing it again and again until you're ill or can no longer do it. But what you're trying to do is not think about what hurts, how you've hurt others. You don't want to think about any of it. So people have always said, well, the contemplative moment is difficult because then all of it rises to my conscious level and I can see and hear what I have been unwilling to heal.
And contemplative prayer is relevant when you're just trying to survive?
Oh, absolutely, because it's not quiet necessarily. You can do it quietly, or you could go to a drumming class and have the drumming take you into another place. You can do it like the Gullah ancestors in my family, with a ring shout, dancing around in a circle without crossing your ankles. You can do it in any number of ways. I do all of my contemplative writing with a television on. I'm not listening to it, but it's a rhythm of life. I want, when I'm writing, for my words to be grounded in reality, in everyday life. I don't want it to be esoteric and weird and intellectual. I want to be speaking the language of the people. And so it helps me to hear Maury muttering in the background or CBS News or something, because it always reminds me, whatever's coming up in you, say it in plain English. Don't try to add flourishes. Don't let your degrees overlayer the sentences. Just speak to the people about what you're hearing in the Spirit. It's an invitation to everyone. It's not for one group of people. As I said, we're all one tribe. It's an invitation to all of us.
How does contemplation birth prophetic proclamation into action?
Prophetic proclamation and action that derives from our own interests, our own anger, our own decisions about what should be changed or what should be, doesn't last very long. And so by allowing the inner self to guide the action, to allow the Spirit to speak through you, by that inward turn, through that inward turn, then you're more likely to make better choices about how you present in society, how you oppose oppression, how you supersede your own fears. There are pictures of a young woman in a flowing dress standing in front of police officers in military gear, completely peaceful, in contemplation, with her dress blowing and them threatening her, and she is at peace. Even if they had shot her, you can't kill peace. Peace is endemic. Anyone who saw that photo knew what contemplation in the midst of crisis is, and that it can keep you, it can hold you, like Brian Schwinn talks about gravity holding you. Peace will hold you, even in the face of amazing threat. And so if you can abide in this place that you don't have to catch a plane to get to, it's with you all the time. You can turn inward. You can listen instead of talk. You can hear what comes next. You can hear the discerning voice that says, not that, this. I mean, that old film, The Apostle, where the actor is walking to the road going, which way, Jesus? This way or that way? Okay, so that's a fundamentalist view of tell me which candy bar to pick or which road to walk down. But you have an inner guide. You have a guide that keeps you straight. It's a spiritual guide. If you don't listen to it, you'll often make mistakes you don't have to make. But all you had to do was stop in the midst of threat, in the midst of indecision, in the midst of just confusion, everyday confusion. Stop and allow the gift of inner peace to hold you.
Then I guess it doesn't matter what path you take.
It matters because you can make your journey so much longer than it has to be. I mean, I have found that things I rejected that I should have accepted came around to me again later in a different way. But boy, it was such a long, unnecessary route. When if I had been listening instead of talking, and if I'd been discerning, the path would have been more direct. I mean, you think about the Hebrew children in the desert wandering for all those years. I mean, if you take a look at a map, there's a more direct path. You know, you didn't have to. The direct path is, well, in that instance, I think it's a poor example because some of the generations had to die out in the desert in order for inhabiting the new land to be a real inhabitation and newness. So spiritually, some of that old stuff had to die. So I think that's why Spirit took them the long way. But often we take the long way because we don't hear which way to go. This way, Jesus, that way, Jesus. We don't listen. So taking that mysticism out of the story of human life makes it difficult to negotiate life, makes it difficult to journey. Because if you have a story of where you're going, then you don't have to cling to certainties. You don't have to create an arrogance of control. Because I'm comfortable knowing that when it's my time to transition, that the elders will come and get me, that I won't have to walk into the light alone, that they will be with me, and that there will be joy. And I often say joy unspeakable and full of glory.